Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you are listening to this solo edition of the Secret Sorceress Society. Today's podcast is going to be very short and very sweet and in loving memory of my naughty little sister, Sarah McGranagan. It's been 25 years today, the 31st of August, since I received the phone call letting me know that my sister had passed away. She had died after a battle with cancer for numerous years, a battle where she won at many times, where she overcame what she was told she would never overcome. She birthed a beautiful little boy, Cameron Ashley, and yes, today I simply want to honour my naughty little sister. And for those of you who may remember the books by Dorothy Edwards, My Naughty Little Sister was one of my favourite books as a child. And Sarah was the absolute epitome of the naughty little sister, the redhead, the cheekiness, the naughtiness, but also the huge heart and the goodness in all that she did. Sarah and I were very, very, very close as sisters, but we also fought like cat and dog. I'm sure many of you can relate to that. I can remember in a fit of pique once ripping her Madness poster off the wall, but we were also thick as thieves. And today I simply want to honour her as I do every year on her death anniversary. And one of the things that Sarah taught me, in fact, her legacy, was the power of plant medicine. When Sarah was undergoing her chemotherapy and her radiotherapy, remembering that she passed 25 years ago, she'd been undergoing treatment for at least 2 or 3 years prior to that. So, we're talking 27, 28 years ago. Things have moved on since then, but definitely at that time, for such a young woman to have a cancer was, it was quite unusual. Things have changed, unfortunately, and we're seeing more and more younger women getting cancer diagnosis. And like many, Sarah's diagnosis initially went unrecognized. She'd gone to the doctors with a little lump above her breast and was told simply that it was a cyst, nothing to worry about, and to simply stop drinking more coffee. Sarah obviously decided that wasn't good enough and eventually got a second opinion, and that's when her treatment was started. And Sarah went on to do a lot of research into supporting herself holistically. So, she was one of the first women I know, or you'd walk into her house, or her plants or her food was organic. She followed a macrobiotic diet. She was soaking all of her fruit and vegetables in apple cider vinegar. She took me for my first raw vegan meal in San Francisco because that's where she was living. And it was disgusting, but I ate it. But she left that legacy. Sarah also studied a lot of conspiracy theories. She was very much into wheatgrass and using herbal medicine. So she was very much blending the old worlds with the new. And as a result, she was able to get pregnant with the child she was told she would never have. But unfortunately, during that pregnancy, round about the time of my 30, I was 30 after Cameron was born. So during her pregnancy, her cancer came back, and Sarah made a decision not to have any treatment that could harm her baby, but instead to try and support herself holistically. Unfortunately, 6 months after Cameron was born, my sister died. And she died on the same day as Princess Diana. So yeah, you're going to hear me crying. I've purposely not worn any mascara, and you may hear me taking a few breaths as I share this episode with you. And I remember someone saying, oh, they haven't done their work, then they're wired, you know, you should be able to share this story now without tears. And I took that very much to heart and thought that there was something wrong with me, that I hadn't done enough work, that, you know, I hadn't moved on. And, you know, the one thing I want to say is, most of the time, as I'm sure anyone who is struggling with grief will know, is that you can live a normal life most days. And then there'll just be those moments where you're caught out, where there's a memory or an anniversary. And I think then you are allowed to sit with your grief, with your tears, and honour the person that is no longer with you in this realm. I know my mum never, ever recovered from losing her daughter. How can you? As a parent, you never expect to outlive your child. And if anyone is feeling overwhelmed by their grief for their own personal situation, then I highly recommend episode 2 from my good friend Alicia Lifestyles podcast series, with the most amazing episode exploring and understanding grief. And for me, it's now become an area of my work where I want to be able to support not only myself, but understand more how sitting with grief and holding it in our body, how it impacts our cellular health, our physical, our emotional, and our spiritual health. And so Sarah has left her legacy. She, you know, she inspired me to look at working with juice therapy, with essential oils, now moving on to womb healing and, you know, cacao, and I'm working with the plant medicines in the way that I can to honour all involved and to support those women who, and men of course, who want to come or need to come and work with me so that I can hold and support them. And I can remember, my goodness, it must be at least round about 8-9 years ago. I was at a fitness convention hosted by Metabolic Effect. So for those of you that may not know, I had a very successful fitness business for almost, 15, 16 years. And that was actually inspired by my sister, because a couple of years after she had died, I was at another fitness convention, because I was at that time working as an HR manager in the fitness industry. And I'd gone to a fitness convention, and there was lots of inspirational talkers and speakers. And there was one woman speaking about regrets and, you know, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for this, waiting for that. And I can remember walking out of her talk and signing up to become an aerobics teacher. And the rest, as they say, then is history, because I went on to qualify as an aerobics teacher, starting with my 2 people a week, you know, my loyal friends turning up week after week for my classes as I learnt my trade, and then went on to qualify and explore and get so many qualifications in all aspects of fitness, from biomechanics to pre and postnatal fitness, going on then to obviously sports massage, which later became aromatherapy, teaching circuits, early mornings, kettle exercise, aerobics, you name it. Pilates obviously became a huge love. And all of that was sparked by the remembrance that those of us who are left, we need to get on and live our lives. For me, this is my perspective, not just for ourselves, but in loving memory. I think the worst thing I could do in honor and memory of my sister is not to live a full and, you know, happy life. And it hasn't always been like that. And certainly, you know, the layers are still peeling away. And I've shared that in the books that I've co-authored. And, you know, it's affected my relationship with my mum. But those are all the things along the way. So today it's all about celebrating life. It's about celebrating Sarah and how much she brought into the world in the short time that she was with us. But more importantly, it's about sharing this story, which reminds me so much of Sarah. And as I say, I heard it at a fitness convention, and one of the speakers, Keone Tita, was talking about plant medicine. In particular, he was talking about the power of cacao, but also showing how there's so many other plant medicines that we can harness to support and complement if we are, taking the Western route. For me, it's always about, working in harmony, which is what the plants teach us to do. And I can remember him reading out this medicine according to Cherokee legend. And we were in the Ramada at Manchester Airport. I'm sure it was the Ramada at Manchester Airport. And there was about 100 of us in the room. And as he read it, I could feel the tears just flowing down my face as I thought, this is the message that Sarah wanted me to hear. This is the message. I didn't know at the time what I was going to do with the message. I just knew that the message resonated so deeply with me. So I'm going to do my best to share it with you here. And yes, I hope you love it as much as I do. The old ones say that at one time all of creation spoke the same language. The plants could communicate with the finned ones. The four-leggeds could speak with the trees. The stones could talk with the wind. And even the most dependent, most pitiful part of creation, the two-leggeds, or as we have come to call ourselves, the humans, could also speak with the other parts of creation. All existed in harmony. The plants, the animals, and the elements of the four directions, all existence. All knew that if the two-leggeds were to survive, they would need help. The animals gave of themselves, willingly sacrificing so that the humans could have food. They knew that their skins were much better suited to survival than that of the humans, so they allowed their skins to be taken and used for clothing and shelter. The finned ones, the flyers, and the crawlers also allowed themselves to be used by the humans to ensure their survival. The plant people, the standing people, trees, and the stone people, rocks. And for me, that's obviously become the crystals as well. Freely gave of themselves so that the humans had what they needed for food, clothing, and shelter. An agreement was forged with the two-leggeds that they would ask for permission for these gifts, give thanks for the sacrifice, and take no more than they needed. And so it was good. But then the two-leggeds started growing in numbers and began to feel themselves more important than the rest of creation. They began to believe that the web of life revolved around them, ignoring the fact that they were just one small part of the circle. The two-leggeds began to kill without asking for permission. They began to take more than they needed. They ceased to give thanks. All parts of the agreement were broken. The great animal councils banded together to determine what they should do with these wrongs. They needed to protect themselves from destruction and eradication, and so it was decreed by the council, if one of their clan was killed by the two-leggeds and thanks was not given for the sacrifice, the chief animal spirit would afflict the disrespectful killer with a devastating disease. The plants were distressed and said to the animals, they wrong us too. They dig us up, trample us, burn us out, and don't even listen when we try to tell them what we can do to help them. Yet, we feel compassion for the two-leggeds. Man struggles to realize his place in the web of creation, and he cannot learn if he is wiped out by disease. Man needs our help. So for every disease you animals bring to them, we, the plant people, will give them a cure. All the two-leggeds have to do is listen when we talk to them. And that for me has become such a powerful legacy of taking time to connect and commune and be with nature, listening to the plants, listening to their guidance, seeking their medicine respectfully, and honouring the whole cycle of creation. When I came back to review this legend, I realized that then also is the invocation for me of working with the crystals as well, and bringing the plant medicine in the form of the essential oils and the crystals together to create little moments, little anchorings to remind us to connect in with everything that is around us that can support us. And I think there's no more time again than like the present, the last few years that we've gone through, where many of us reconnected with nature. We see much more people now finding a joy of being out, walking, wild swimming, all of the things. And so in honor of Sarah's memory, just a gentle reminder to reconnect with nature, to truly get quiet and listen and see what message the plant people have for you. That's all I want to share with you today. And all I want to say is, for anyone who is feeling any huge amount of loss or grief, just know that time will soften, but the grief will never ever go away. So I just want to take this time to thank you, to honour you for listening, and wish you all the best. Thank you.